We're good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the MakeCode Arcade Advanced live stream. I'm Daryl at Darzoo on the forum.
And I'm Vivian. I live cheerful on the forums.
Due to various circumstances, it's just us two today.
I kind of feel like this is the Vivian show now, and I'm hosting a different person every day.
Yes. Thanks for having me on the Vivian show, Vivian.
Thanks for coming on, Daryl. I hear you have a new game in the works. Do you want to talk about it? We can run the clips.
I wish I had clips to run. But yeah, so the game I was thinking about doing today is actually a classic. It's one of the first things we've had in arcade is sort of a space shooter type thing. So let me actually find an example. Ooh, I guess it's not on this. It's one of the tutorials, but I don't want to go through the whole tutorial right now. So basically the idea is, you've got a spaceship, you're flying through space, things are coming at you, and you shoot them down. And then as you survive more and more of the different ships coming at you, then maybe power-ups get dropped and you get to upgrade your weapons, and then maybe you have like different crazy firing patterns, like maybe they go in a cone, or maybe they like wave, or maybe they go around in circles, or different things. So I was thinking I'd sort of whiz through the first part of just setting up a space kind of shooter game, because we've seen that pattern a lot already on the stream. And then I think the more interesting part would be picking up power-ups and different weapons and things like that. A lot of room for expansion there. And the general mechanic of like picking up power-ups and stuff, and like, having a little inventory of things you can cycle between is a very common theme in a lot of games, adventure games or whatever else. And we've already done somewhat related stuff many times on the stream before. Yeah, how's that sound?
I think it's a great plan. How applicable to many different scenarios.
Yeah, that's the hope. Sweet. Okay, so I think I'm going to use very simple pixel graphics, because it's actually going to take, I think it's going to take most of the stream to get this all working. So I'm just going to use kind of simple pixel graphics. So my favorite color in the palette is this teal. So I'm going to make the player this sort of teal shape. And I think they're just going to be, I think this will be our ship. So actually, I'm going to take this and move it up here. And this is 4 high by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 by 10. And I'm going to resize this just so it's nice and tight. Oops, I did that backwards. 10 by 4. And I can just use the fill tool now, actually. Okay, so we've got a player. Let's do our classic move with buttons. All right, so here we are. And let's say that on A button press, we're going to shoot, and on B button press, we're going to switch weapons. So let's get those ready. So on A, a simple thing is projectiles. Projectiles are sort of made for this scenario, which is, shooting something from like a sprite or from the edge of the screen. So let's say we start with orange projectiles. Great. Now we've got orange projectiles, and I'm going to say they're going to have a VX. So the positive VX direction is, well, I don't know if the mirroring on the camera is going to work out, right?
Oh, it's
to the right on the screen.
It's okay on the screen.
Okay, it worked out. Sweet. So now we can fire these projectiles. They should probably be faster. But we'll tweak all this as we get to different more weapons. Yeah.
Everything goes fast in space.
Okay, I'm gonna format this code, get it nice and tidy, and now let's spawn some enemies. And I'm gonna say, every 2 seconds we're going to spawn an enemy, which can also be a projectile. And I'm gonna rename this and say enemy. Oh yeah, that's right. Enemy ship. And this is gonna come, from the other side. And let's make this kind of simple. So I think the enemies will be, what's the opposite of, well, so I'm using teal and orange. trying to think on like a colored triangle, maybe
Feels, yeah.
something like that. Let's do 8 by 8. These can be, you know, something. Oops, something kind of easier to hit. And let's see what those look like. All right, so yeah, we've got some coming there, and then we want them to distribute randomly along the screen size. Again, I'm gonna kind of whiz through this because we've done this a bunch of times on stream. I'm gonna say enemy ship, set the Y position to math, pick random between, I'm gonna, because I know that, you know, they're high, I'm gonna say that they start, well, let's say 10 up to 110. So the screen is 120 tall. And we actually have a variable that's screen height. Actually, yeah, let me use that. I was going to say I was going to shortcut and not use that for expediency, but honestly, it doesn't take that long. So
just one block.
Let's do that and drop that in there. Okay, so now, so this makes it so they can't go quite at the very edge, which would be kind of annoying for the player to, like, you know, see and shoot. Okay, so now we've got some enemies coming at us, and we have a way to fire, and we have a way to move. And the other things I need to do real quick are the collisions and the kind. So I'm going to set the kind of the enemy ship to be enemy so that we can distinguish between players, enemies, and projectiles. And then I'm going to do a couple of overlaps. So I'm going to drag out 2 of these. And we're going to say when a player overlaps an enemy, we're going to lose a life. And when the enemy, when a projectile overlaps an enemy, then we're going to destroy the enemy. So first, the player, we're going to say, let's change life by -1. And I think this automatically, yeah, goes game over. So the other thing we need, of course, is to destroy the enemy so that we don't collide with it over and over again. So let's destroy that. And we'll copy paste this block, bring it over here, because we're going to need this also when we're doing projectile. So when a projectile hits an enemy, destroy the projectile and the enemy. And, you know, usually you get a score or something when you destroy an enemy. All right, so this is, you know, in 8 minutes, very basics of a little space shooter. And there's a lot of ways that you can progress the difficulty, you know, make the enemies spawn faster, make them shoot back or whatever. I think in this case, what I want to do is make the enemies spawn faster and go a little bit, go faster as well. So we're going to need some incentive to use these new weapons that we're going to get. So let me just do that code real quick. So I'm going to create 2 variables, which is enemy, enemy spawn rate. And then I'm going to create another variable that is the enemy spawn, speed. So I want them to come a little bit faster and faster. So starting spawn rate is going to be 2000, which is, you know, 2000 milliseconds, 2 seconds. And the starting speed, I think I said 50. So both of these are going to change slowly over time. And then instead of using a on-game update, I'm going to use a forever loop, and I'm going to have a pause in here, and then it's going to pause for as long as the spawn rate is. So it's going to wait for the spawn rate, and then it's going to spawn an enemy. And the reason why we use this is because this lets us dynamically change the enemy spawn rate, as opposed to this dropdown, which you can't change kind of as the game's going on. And even if you were to put the variable in there, the event is only registered once at the very start of your game, as opposed to this is evaluated every loop. Okay, great. So, you know, enemies are spawning just like they were a moment ago. So just making sure that still works. And then on game update, I'm going to say every 5 seconds, the game's going to get a little bit harder. And we're just going to do that by changing this speed and the spawn rate. Also, I didn't use the speed yet. So let me, oops, I guess I can't grab it from there. Let's grab the enemy speed and drop that in here. And I have to make that negative because they're coming from that side. So let's Okay, negative speed. All right, so the speed is going to get faster, let's say by 10. That might be too much. We'll see. And the spawn rate is going to get slower, or sorry, quicker together, which means less of a delay. Yeah, by let's say 100. I think these. Well, 100 milliseconds isn't very much. It's a tenth of a second. Yeah, I think this will be fine. I think I'll make this 5, and then just one other thing is I want to see what the maximum is going to be. So I don't want these. Eventually, these could get like crazy. Like this could get negative, which would make no sense, and this could get to 0 or like to just really, really high numbers, which would be kind of crazy. So I'm going to put a maximum on these. So I'm going to go. We have this maximum block in the math category, and what I can do is say set the enemy speed and the spawn rate to the max of each one, and I'm going to say the max speed is going to be 1,000, and the minimum spawn rate is going to be
is that backwards?
Yeah. Oh, set to max. You're right, and this
Okay, cool.
set to minimum. Yeah. Wait. No, speed. Yeah, exactly. Set the min. So the speed will never be higher than 1,000, and the spawn rate will never be faster than 100. So I'm going to change this to 100 milliseconds real quick just to get to that max difficulty and just see how difficult that is. So with our little weapon right now, this is pretty difficult. Wow. Okay, I think those.
I think you lasted longer than expected.
Yeah, that's true. And I think okay. So let's see. So this is, well, I can actually hang out down here and be safe because I know kind of how the code is written right now. I'll fix that in a second. Okay, so that's pretty fast. I think we want to turn this. I think we could get even more spawning and slower. So I'm going to say the spawn rate, can be like that, and a little bit slower than that crazy 800. I think 800 is just kind of crazy. Okay, let's see how this goes. So I'm just play testing a little bit right now with some cheats to kind of see what the end game is going to look like. And so this is going to be, wow, this is still really fast. That's almost doable. Let's cut it just a bit more again, and I'm gonna cut this a little bit more again because I think it's okay to have just a swarm of these things. So as this gets faster and faster, I think our really strong weapons will be able to handle this. Great. Okay, so the game is progressively going to get to that point, and we're gonna it's only going to happen every 5 seconds, so it's going to take a while to get there. All right, so the other thing I need to do real quick to make sure we don't cheat is set the stay on screen flag for my sprite on, and I'm going to rename this to the player, as Richard is wont to do. All right, so great. Ooh, whoops, what did I do to my projectiles? So, what? Okay, let me see where, so, oh, don't know what I did there. Somehow I changed the projectile speed to be very slow. All right, so 15 minutes, we got a space shooter that's gonna get progressively more difficult. And you can earn points by destroying these things. Now let's get to the meat of what I really wanted to get to, which is guns and weapons. So I'm thinking that B will change your weapon, and let's see, how do we make this fair? Maybe B will change your weapon, and maybe you only have a certain number of bullets per weapon, and you can pick up new weapons from the enemy. So, you pick up like a really cool gun, you get to use it for a little bit, and then you're back to your basic one. So you always have the basic one to stand by. I don't know. What do you think? Any idea?
I think that's good. I like that we can pick up like the remains of the ships, so that it encourages us to also like shoot them and not just dodge them.
Right. Yes. Indeed. And actually, one thing I noticed is I think I need to switch this around, the pick random spawning the enemy ships, so that they can be right up to the edge of the screen. Otherwise, the player could hide down here and never get hit, because I think that gap of 10 was too much. Okay, great. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop on when an enemy dies, they're going to drop a power up. So we could do that in the collision code, but we have this great thing, which is that on destroyed of kind enemy, we can run some code. And so it doesn't matter if I destroy them, with a projectile or with some other method, this will run. And I think what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to just drop a power up, and I'm going to make a new kind. I'm going to call this power up, and I'm going to use just a shorthand name there. And this will be, let's say this is 8 by 8, and I'm going to sort of do this as some sort of pattern, so you can distinguish it from the other things going on. Okay. I don't know. I think you'll get the idea. I could animate this or something later. Great. So there's a power up that we drop, and we need to place that at the location of the enemy sprite. So, oops. So I need to get the grab X, grab Y properties of the enemy that just died. And for the power up, great. Then I have all these, variables drop out, and I just go around with the backspace key and get rid of them. Okay, so now we're setting the X and Y at that location. So this should drop, I think, a power up per death, and we don't want that. That's too often. So I'm instead gonna do a % chance, and this is a perfect time to use a % chance. Let's say there's a 10% chance, and we might change that later. All right, so now I'm going to say when the player overlaps a power up, then we want to get a power up. So I'm going to use a function for this, and this is going to be, I'm going to call this add weapon. And the thinking is, this will add a random weapon to your arsenal. Okay, so on collide player power up, we're going to do that, and we're also going to say destroy the power up, so we can't pick it up multiple times. All right, so adding a weapon, what I want to do, whoopsies, that goes here, I think. So what I want to do is we need to have sort of like an inventory of weapons, and let me think how I do this. I think each weapon will have a name and maybe ammo. I think that makes sense. Name and ammo. Is that enough? I think if there's anything else I need to think about. No, I think that'll work. So a classic way to store things, if you only have, it's going to be a global list, I don't have like multiple players or anything, is just to use parallel arrays. So I'm going to use an array of names, and I'm going to use an array of ammo counts. And I'm going to say that if the ammo count is, so the first weapon I want to be infinite. So I'm going to say that if the ammo count is, well, and actually the ammo count for the first position in the array just isn't going to matter. So I'm going to say, there's a basic weapon. So this is going to be called the weapon names, and then weapon ammos. I don't know if that's correct terminology. Okay, so we have a basic weapon and an array of bullets. And then on B button, which I added very early in the game, I have done nothing with, we're going to cycle these. So I'm going to have another variable that is current weapon, and this is going to be an index into these arrays, and that's going to start at 0, which means our basic weapon. And on a button pressed, what I want to do is cycle that. So I'm going to set the current weapon, and this is where we're going to use this remainder thing. So I'm going to say we want the current weapon plus 1, and then mod or remainder. Sorry, you might hear me call it mod sometimes because that's another name for remainder block like this. The length of the array minus 1. So the length of the weapon names minus 1. All right. And so what this is going to do is it's going to cycle through our different weapons. You can spend some time trying to convince yourself of this, or we have more content that also goes over the same pattern. Or if you ask on the forum, we're happy to kind of explain how that works. I should make a whole tutorial just kind of on array indexing and manipulation at some point. Okay, so B cycles your weapon, but that does nothing now because we don't have any other weapons. So I think what I'm going to do is once we cycle our weapon, I'm going to, for half a second, say what weapon we have. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to get the weapon name at the current weapon index, and we're going to say that for half a second. So now I spam. Oops. Okay, so let me think about this. So B current weapon. Okay, so to debug this, I'm just going to put current weapon in here and see what it says. So this is the index. So okay, let me
set current weapon at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
0. Let me do it this way, which is I say it before. Interesting. Maybe I need a text join. I think I shouldn't need. Oh, because it's 0. So I think it's maybe not saying anything. Oh, okay. So I did something wrong here. So the current weapon, we add 1, and do we divide that by the length of the arrays? Oh, so the length of the array is 1 in this case. So you can't divide by 0. Yeah. What is the right math?
It should just be the length of the array.
Should it?
And then minus 1 after you mod it?
Well,
no.
Let's see. The remainder of 5 divided by 5 is going to be 0. So if we're on index 4, and then we add 1, we want it to go to 0 if the length is 5. So 4 plus 1 is going to be 5 divided by 5 is going to give you 0. Oh, okay, so I think I just don't need that minus 1. I think it's just this. Okay, yeah, great. So now we just say 0. And awesome. Okay, so I actually want to say the name of the current weapon as we cycle. Okay, basic. Great. Nice. Now let's add some weapons. Okay, so on add weapon, I'm going to do new weapon is going to be a random value between, I don't know how many weapons we have right now, 0 to 10 or something. And then I'm going to say if the new weapon is equal, whoops, pop this back in there and this in there. So if the new weapon is, let's say 1 to, well, so we're going to change this as we get more weapons. Right now, I'm just going to add 1 new weapon. And so this will always, I think, pick 1. And yeah, and so it's always going to go into this first if branch. And what we want to do here is add some new values to our list, our weapon list. And actually, so how does this work? So if the weapon's already there, I probably want to add ammo counts to it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not already there, then I want to add it to the list. But what I could do instead is just add the weapon, and you could just add duplicates of the same weapon, and they would just have different ammo counts, and that's fine. And I think eventually I can combine them so that you don't have that problem. But a simpler thing to start off with is I'm going to say weapon names. Let's add a weapon, and I'm going to call this one, let's call this like cone, the cone weapon. So I'm imagining one that sort of like sprays in a cone, maybe like 3 or something. That's kind of a classic look. And then also weapon ammos. And so this is going to be a number. So in the math category, there's a little number, and you get 50 shots of this one before it runs out. Okay, so now, no, I have just basic. Now let's see if I can get a power up. Let's see. I should just change the power up chance so that I don't have to do this.
Can you show them off screen?
I don't think so. Let's just change the power up chance just so that I can get test this more easily. I'm going to add a comment here that is doo-doo. Leaving comments for yourself is a classic way of making sure you come back to something later. Okay, so let's drop that, and now we get this, and so we can see cone basic. Nice. Great. So we're switching between these, and right now, you always shoot with the basic regardless of if you have the cone weapon. So that is going to be handled in the on A button pressed when we fire our weapon. So I'm going to make a new. I wonder if I should make a function per weapon. Nah, let's just make one big function for all the weapons. Fire, and let's so let's do this in right where we do add weapon. I'm gonna have like a similar if statement here that will handle kind of like per weapon what to do. Okay, and inside of the A button pressed, we're going to call fire. And let me think. I wonder. Yeah, I think that's fine. I was debating whether or not that part should be responsible for like checking ammo counts and things like that, but I think not. So I'm gonna have a big if else statement here, and it's gonna be comparing strings, and we're gonna say so let me I'm gonna make a variable called weapon name, or maybe current weapon name. I'm gonna say abbreviated for current is cur, and let's get the value at the weapon name's current value at the current weapon index. Okay, so if the current name is, let me get that. Actually, I'll do the undo. current weapon name is basic. Then we fire like that. Otherwise, if it's cone, we want to fire differently. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'll do the ammo in just a second. So this will have different speeds like that. So now, since these have a Y component, they should. So now I'm in cone mode.
Cool.
A cone weapon. So that's kind of exciting. And so cone, basic cone. So you can see every power up is giving me a different instance of the cone weapon. So that's all kind of working as expected. All right, so we're about halfway through the stream. This is exciting, and I've gotten to kind of the point where I wanted to being able to have different weapons. So I think for the rest of the stream, I'm just gonna add a bunch of different effects and kind of and make fun things, maybe wavy patterns, spiral patterns. Vivian, if you have any ideas, keep me posted. I'd love to.
Do we want to have like a visual indicator of like your ship changing on like what weapon you have? That's not just saying
like that. Okay, let me add a comment of like ideas. Change ship look with weapon. So like you're saying like per weapon, as you're changing that, your ship start changing its look and
maybe
feel?
like the front changes, so it's like you're changing the attacher.
Yeah, then you can see like a cone shape or whatever else. Cool. Yeah, totally, we can do that. Okay, so some ideas I had for weapons would be like I think a wavy weapon would be very cool. And I also think a spiral weapon. So like it shoots and it spirals out from your ship, like going farther and farther.
You could have like what are those it's not cowbells, but the things that you leave and then you can just drop them and then maybe they'd explode after a while.
Like bombs.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Yeah, that would be really fun. We could do lasers, like a classic one. You just straight line something. Homing, is a classic thing. Homing bullet or missile.
It'd be good easy to do for us.
Yeah. Yes, we have that beautiful sprite follow, and then we could use some particle effects on that too. Yeah, this is it's kind of fun to, I think, just come up with a whole bunch of different ways to do things like this. Okay, great. So let me add the ammo system real quick, and then I'll get to some of these ideas. So the way I want to do this is, let me think. I'm going to say I'm going to make a variable that is going to be ammo consumed, and I'm going to set this to 0. And then inside of each of these branches, I'm going to say a different amount of ammo consumed. And so, and deliberately, in this branch, we consume 0 ammo because it's our basic weapon. We just have an infinite amount of it. So we're not going to consume any ammo. And at the end here, what I'm going to do is decrement the amount of ammo we have in that weapon category. And if it is less than or equal to 0, then we'll get rid of it. And to make sure I never get rid of the basic weapon, I'm just going to add one ammo count there. So that'll never go down, and therefore will never be removed. Okay, so now what I want to do is say arrays. I'm going to set the value of the ammo list. Where's my ammos? Set the value at the current weapon to be well, let's see. So yeah, I have to get it first. So I'm going to say get value at. So okay, so I'm going to make a variable that is ammo. Inevitably, when I have these arrays, I always just end up with so many variables. So from weapon ammos, let's get the current amount of ammo we have, and then I'm going to change ammo by the ammo consumed.
1 minus or 0 minus?
Oh, right. Thank you. By negative that. And then I'm going to have an if statement, which is that if the ammo is less than or equal to 0, then we are going to get rid of that particular weapon. So here we're going to go and say, where's remove? Remove.
There's a get and remove. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's get and remove, but I think I can just say remove at value at. And I think every time well, yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so, whoops, not that one. So every time we remove, we're gonna have to change what the current weapon is, but first let me just remove these. So weapon ammos and weapon names. Okay, so if we're out of ammo, we remove that weapon. And otherwise, what we're gonna do is in weapon ammos, we're gonna set the current weapon ammo back to this ammo count that we just modified. Okay, I think that all works. So the tricky thing is that let's say you're at the last weapon, you remove that thing. Now current weapon is no longer a accurate, you know, at the correct number. So to fix that, I'm going to use a function for this little bit of logic here, which is essentially this next weapon. So this logic we have inside of the B button pressed is just going to be pulled out into a function. And then down here after we remove a weapon, we're going to call next weapon. Okay, so let me see if this works.
Wait, should we only call next weapon if the one we removed was the last one? Or we should subtract one and then call next weapon?
You're right. Yeah, that's probably what we should do. Let's do that. So let's, we can just say change current weapon by -1. So yeah, right. So if you're, you know, midway through the list, then you remove the item there. Then we want to move the cursor back one, and the next weapon will move it forward one. So it should move it to sort of the right spot, I think. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so I think now I have the cone weapon. Oh, I have 2 cone weapons. Let me fix that. Okay, so just the basic weapon right now. Let's get the cone weapon. Okay, so a cone in basic. And now with the cone weapon, fire a bunch of times. And now we're back to basic. Sweet. And if I pick up multiple of these, I should, you know, be able to fire the cone weapon a bunch. And then when it runs out, switches back to basic, and I can switch forward again. Oh, maybe I consumed both of them. I'm not entirely sure. I think that all worked more or less. It might be a little bit funny which weapon you switch to next, but that's not super important because the point is you're done with your current weapon. In fact, actually, maybe the best thing that the player would expect is just go back to the basic weapon so that they don't spend ammo on something they weren't expecting to spend ammo on. So actually, yeah, that I overcomplicated kind of what needed to happen there. Okay, great. So now we've got ammo tracking. Let's add some more weapons. And the great thing is all of the weapon code is right here. So I don't need to go, I think, anywhere else really to do any of this. So I'm going to add, I think, the wavy and spirally weapons real quick. I think that will be super fun. So I'm going to say if new weapon is 2 and 3, then we're going to add these other weapon types. So let's add wavy. Is that how you spell wavy? No, there's no E, right?
There's no E, yeah.
Awesome. Good thing I know these things. Let's say you only get 20 bullets for that. And then I'm going to add spiral. And let's say you also get maybe 10. I think this one's going to be actually really powerful. And okay, so you know, so I kind of most of this okay, this is a little maybe a little messy, but I'm going to extract the middle part to a second function. So fire does everything related to firing, and fire weapon is just going to be this if statement. This is really the meat of kind of what's going on. And this is kind of just what I would call boilerplate. So let's call fire weapon, and that goes right here. And so in fire weapon, you just say how much ammo you consumed and then do the weapon effect. And we could actually have a return value. Actually, that's a cleaner way to do this. So return values are really handy because they, I mean, they let you pass values between different things. So here I'm going to say the ammo consumed, oops, is what we return every time. And we're going to return 3 there, and in the default case 0. And so in the you know, the basic weapon, the default case is going to be 0 as well. All right, so now I have kind of less to think about. This is kind of what I was hoping for, is that when I'm adding a weapon, I can just kind of focus on this little bit here. In fact, I'm going to collapse the simulator for just a moment so I get more code space. Okay, so wavy and spiral, let's do those. So if the current weapon is wavy, then what I want to do is create a projectile. And let me think about this. So the projectile is going to be a little bit slower. Let's do something like, actually, I think it doesn't really matter, because what I'm going to have to do is under sprite, I'm going to change the kind. Actually, let me think, how am I going to do wavy projectiles? Yeah, I think I need to change the kind. So I want it to follow a sine wave. And so that means on game update, I'm gonna have to do different positioning for this projectile every frame. So I'm going to make a new kind that is wavy projectile. And right. And so the tricky thing with this is if I change the projectile kind, then I need to be really careful that this overlap code still happens. So I'm going to make a bit of code that is enemy hit, and that's going to take in a enemy sprite. And we're going to move this code into here. And we're going to call enemy hit on this. And let me think. Yeah, this seems fine. So now I'm going to duplicate this for wavy projectile. So both of these are going to use this bit of code. And I could move the sprite destroy of the projectile into here as well. I don't think it matters too much. But basically, either projectile or wavy projectile will behave the same right now. But different projectiles in the future could behave differently, and you could control whether or not they're destroyed. Maybe they split into multiple pieces. Maybe you have like a chain lightning thing where it hits one, then goes to another, then another, or something like that. You do all kinds of crazy stuff. But the enemy is always going to behave the same for now. Okay, great. So now I've got a wavy projectile going, and the wavy projectile, let's say that it's going to look ever so slightly different. And the difference is just going to be that the corners aren't filled in. And then on game update, so what I want to do is say that I want to set the Y position to be a function of the x position, or better yet, its lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So, trying to think how to do this. So I think I wonder if I can access, can I read the lifespan? So the lifespan ticks down, right?
Could you just change it based on the period and change like the y by 1 or -1 depending on like which direction you're going?
Yeah, right. So I could just change it. Yeah, right. That should, well, so I'm trying to avoid storing more things on the sprite, but I think I have to have something remembered on the sprite. And I think, so, okay, I'm gonna do a little test real quick, which is I think that the lifespan property ticks down over time. And so if I can just read that, that should be sort of enough. So I'm gonna say of a wavy projectile, let's see, have them all say what their current lifespan is. And then I'm going to, when I create the wavy projectile, I'm going to set its lifespan to 2 seconds. So the question I have is, does the lifespan tick down over time? It does. Okay, good. I got my wavy weapon.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can see it ticking down. Great. So this is basically what I want. Now that I know that's ticking down, what I can do is make the y position of the wavy projectile related to the sign of that. So I can go into math and I can grab, in the square root block, we have a bunch of different math functions. So sine is, it goes in a wave. I don't know how else to explain it. And I'm just gonna drop in the lifespan here and see what happens. I think this is gonna be not right, but we can modify it as things go on. So which one did I get? Spiral. Nope, that's not the one I wanted. Spiral.
Daryl, you gotta shoot him.
Yeah, I know. Okay, wavy. Okay, so that was a little. Oh, so one thing is it's way up there. So I need to. Oh, let me think about this, because I actually want to change the y. I don't want to set the y. Yeah. So I think that should just work. I think I can say. Wait a second. If I change by the sign, is it going to get back to where it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay. Right. I have to remember a bit of math here. I didn't plan out this beforehand.
Wait, sometimes sign will be 0, right? So then the y will just turn to 0.
Well, it's changing by. So changing by 0
okay, cool.
will be okay. I think. But it's not quite clear to me is whether or not. So let's see. So it's going to go down and then it's going to come back up. And when it comes back up, I think it's going to not get past where it was originally. So I think it's going to be not centered on the player. This is a little funny. We're just going to play around with this and see kind of what happens. So one thing I know I want to do is put some multiplications in here. So I want to multiply the value I get afterwards, I think probably by something like 10. And I also want to multiply the value before I put it in. And I think I want to divide this by something kind of big. Well, Sine wants to take in. I'm actually not sure. Let me just multiply by 1 for now, and we'll tweak this as we go. So these numbers here get me some knobs to change. So multiplying on the outside is going to change the amplitude, and multiplying by the inside, I think, is going to change the period. Math terms, if I remember correctly, that's how that works. Oh man, I'm surprisingly bad at hitting these things when they're cone. Oh, good, cone will help me. Okay, I got wavy. So that's a little crazy. So the period is way too fast. So to slow down the period, I need to divide the input, right?
Yeah.
By something. Dividing is the same thing as multiplying by a small number. So let's just do this. And actually, what I can do, the cheat, is just give myself that's kind of the cool thing about how this is set up, is I can just, start with more weapons and everything should just work, I think. So now I've got wavy. Still very jittery. Shoot, what am I forgetting about math? Well, so let's see, what does it expect? Oh, it expects radians, doesn't it? So that means that numbers in the thousands are going to be just kind of crazy big. So I think I just need to keep dividing this more aggressively. So I'm just going to go by powers of tens until it looks good. Also, chime in if you think of good.
Whoa, that looks great.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
That's pretty cool. That's close to what I want. So the period is the amplitude is way too much. So so a little bit of math for the viewers, and I'm not terribly great at explaining this, but so when you think of a wave, the amplitude is like, if you were to stretch it this way, so it goes like crazy like this, that's the amplitude. And the period is like, if it's kind of very slow like that versus like very tight, that's going to be the period. I don't know if that made any sense, clarified anything. Anyway, so now this one is kind of a little less crazy on the amplitude. I think that's basically kind of what I was hoping for, actually. I think it could.
If I saw that coming towards my spaceship.
Right, and it's kind of cool because of its erratic movement is actually pretty good at if the screen's really busy with ships, that'll hit something. Okay, so a few tweaks I want to do. I think I want it to go just a little bit faster out of the gun. So let's say 100. And go to our wavy. So I think that's kind of exciting. What do you think?
I think it's very exciting. My favorite one so far.
Sweet, thank you. Okay, so I'm just gonna not say the lifetime because I think that was sort of distracting. Cool. So I like this. It's sort of shooting at kind of an angle. It's actually it's kind of interesting how that's working. So let me try to think why it's doing what it's doing.
Is it because you're starting it off at the center of the X and Y instead of the right of your ship?
Yeah, well,
and
because
like the way
the wave 2000 just happens to be at a certain point in the period, right? So because we're using change, what's going to happen is it's going to, let's say we were to start at the bottom of a wave, then it's going to move up by, up to the maximum amplitude. And then it's going to come down again by the maximum of the amplitude. And then I'll bring you back to level with the ship. So that would mean it's always waving above you if you were to start at the bottom of the wave. And similar, if you start at the top of the wave, then it would always be below you. So if you start just in the middle, then you should kind of get it to stay centered. And actually, that's not like too far off the middle. It's just kind of funny how sometimes it seems to go more up and sometimes it seems to go more down. I think that's just something to do with because there's some randomness in the amount of sort of frames that I've passed here in the on-game update. You know, I think this is okay as a weapon. It's a little crazy, but it's kind of fun.
We're going for crazy.
Yeah, we're going for a little crazy. These are cool power-up weapons.
Yeah.
And I think to make it, you know, the power-up weapons should feel better a little. So I'm going to make this projectile just a little bit bigger, and I think I'm going to. I don't really know what I want this to look like. I'm just sort of imagining. I don't know if that looks terribly interesting or not.
It's going so fast. You can't get a good look at it.
Right. Yeah, you know, it looks like something. The nice thing is it's going to collide with lots of things because of how big it is. Okay, that might be too powerful. I'll just trim this down just a little bit. Maybe kind of one size smaller. Okay, it is what it is. Let's, we've only got, actually we're just about out of time. Yeah. So let's, okay, I'm gonna go real fast. I think I can fit in the spiral weapon, and then I have to change everything back. So spiral, let's go to that on start, and let's have spiral, and you're gonna start with these, and actually, so I don't have to change this later, I'm gonna say you only start with 5 shots of that, and you'll have to, you know, make do. Okay, so let's change some of these. So I think I'm going to want basically the same things, and I'm going to, this time I'm going to create a spiral projectile, and do all of that, and then I have to go where we have the collisions, wavy, same thing happens with spiral, and then on game update, instead of the instead of wavy projectile, spiral projectile, instead of the the Y, we want the X also to be affected by the lifespan. So I think this isn't gonna look right. Whoa, that's pretty cool. You know, it's pretty fun just to play with these things. So let's see, I wanted to go around in a circle. You know, I just don't have time. There's another stream where I had the equation for going around in a circle. And, you know, I'll leave that as an exercise to the reader. Maybe I'll pick this up another day.
I think it'd be fun to see, have people add their weapons to this. Post in the forums, tell people.
Yes, please do that. All you need to do is modify these 2 if statements here to add your behavior, and maybe this on-game update to add your behavior. Be sure, if you're doing that, not to add too much into here. It has to be pretty simple, because this is running every frame. This is running for every one of these projectiles. And so what that means is it's running this code a lot. And if it gets complicated, it's going to slow your game way down. So just be aware of that. Anyway, so thanks for watching, everyone. So this has been Stream 86, and I'm Daryl at Darzu on the forum.
And I'm Vivian. I live cheerful on the forums.
Oh, and before we go, a name. Any ideas?
Something about choosing. Choose your weapon. Star Destroyers. Space is fast. Zoom, zoom, space.
Choose your own weapon game, adventure. I guess. Choose your own weapon adventure. Sure, we'll do that for now. Thanks, everyone. And we're, I guess, signing off.
Bye.